Before Rome became a great empire, it was just a small place. There were no grand buildings, no large armies, and no famous leaders. It was only a tiny village where people lived simple lives. But something changed. This small village did not stay small forever. It grew into something powerful. It became one of the greatest civilizations in history. This is the story of how Rome rose from a simple beginning to become a mighty republic. At first, Rome had a king. The people obeyed him. But as time passed, they wanted something different. They did not want only one man to have all the power. They wanted a better way to rule their land. So they created a republic. In a republic, the people choose their leaders. They help make decisions for their country. This was a big change. It made Rome different from many other places. Rome did not become powerful overnight. It took many years of hard work, wars, and smart leadership. The early Romans were farmers, traders, and warriors. They learned from other cultures and improved their own way of life. They built strong walls to protect their city. They made alliances with other groups, but they also fought many battles to survive. One of the biggest wars was against the Etruscans, who were strong and ruled over Rome for some time. But the Romans did not give up. They fought back and took control of their own city. This was the start of something new. Rome was no longer just a small place. It was on its way to becoming great. After getting rid of their kings, the Romans created a new system of government. They made laws to keep order. They chose leaders called consuls to make decisions. These consuls were not kings. They only had power for a short time. This way, no one person could control everything. The Romans also created a group called the Senate. The Senate was made of wise and experienced men who gave advice and helped make laws. The people of Rome were divided into two main groups. The rich and powerful people were called patricians. The common people, like farmers and traders, were called plebeians. At first, only patricians could be leaders, but the plebeians wanted a voice too. They fought for their rights, and after many years, they won the right to choose their own leaders. This made Rome even stronger because more people were involved in decisions. Rome also had a strong army. The soldiers were called legionaries. They trained hard every day. They were disciplined and followed orders. This made them one of the best armies in the world. The army helped Rome grow by fighting and winning wars. When Rome won a battle, it took over new lands and brought in more people and wealth. One of Rome's greatest strengths was its ability to learn from others. The Romans borrowed ideas from the Greeks, the Etruscans, and other cultures. They improved their weapons, their government, and even their way of life. They built better roads so their army could move quickly. They created new farming techniques to grow more food. Everything they learned made them stronger. As Rome expanded, it faced many challenges. Other powerful cities and empires did not want Rome to grow. They saw Rome as a threat. This led to many wars. But Rome was determined. The soldiers fought bravely, and the leaders made smart decisions. Slowly, Rome became the most powerful city in the region. The growth of Rome also brought problems. As it became bigger, it needed more leaders, more soldiers, and more resources. The government had to work harder to keep everything under control. Some leaders were fair and just. Others became greedy and wanted more power. This led to conflicts within Rome itself. Despite these challenges, Rome kept growing. It became a place of great buildings, busy markets, and strong laws. The people believed in their city and worked hard to make it better. They thought Rome would last forever. But nothing lasts forever. Rome was strong for a long time, but problems began to grow. Some people had too much power, others had no power at all. The army was big, but it became too large to control. The leaders started fighting each other. Some leaders only cared about themselves, not Rome. These problems made Rome weak. The great empire that ruled the world started to fall. As Rome grew weaker, enemies outside its borders saw an opportunity. The once mighty empire that had ruled over vast lands now faced attacks from all sides. Tribes like the Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns invaded Rome's territories. These tribes were strong and fierce, and Rome's army, which had been unbeatable for so long, struggled to defend the empire. The soldiers were no longer as disciplined as they used to be. Some of them were not even Roman. They were hired mercenaries from other lands who did not care about Rome as much as the old Roman soldiers did. This made the army weaker and less loyal. One of the worst moments came in 410 CE, when a group called the Visigoths, led by their king Alaric, attacked Rome itself. They broke through the city's walls and looted it. This was shocking because Rome had not been invaded for over 800 years. People thought Rome was invincible, too strong to be defeated, but this attack showed that the empire was no longer as powerful as it used to be. The people of Rome were scared and confused. They wondered how such a great city could fall into the hands of invaders. But this was only the beginning of Rome's troubles. The final blow came in 476 CE. A Germanic leader named Odoacer defeated the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, and took control of Rome. Romulus Augustulus was just a teenager, and he was not a strong leader. When Odoacer removed him from power, it marked the official end of the Western Roman Empire. People were sad and scared. The great city that had once ruled the world was now just a shadow of its former self. The streets that were once full of life and activity became quiet and empty. The grand buildings and monuments started to crumble, because no one had the money or resources to take care of them. But not all of Rome disappeared. While the Western Roman Empire fell, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to thrive. Its capital was a city called Constantinople, which is now called Istanbul in modern-day Turkey. Constantinople was a beautiful and wealthy city. It had strong walls that protected it from invaders, and it was located on important trade routes, which brought wealth and prosperity. The Byzantine Empire kept many of Rome's traditions alive, including its laws, religion, and culture. It lasted for almost 1,000 more years until it finally fell in 1453 CE when the Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople. Even though the Roman Empire ended, its legacy lived on. Rome changed the world in many ways, and its influence can still be seen today. Here are some examples. First, the Romans created laws that are still used today. Their ideas about justice and fairness influenced governments around the world. For example, the principle that everyone should be treated equally under the law comes from Roman ideas. Many modern legal systems, including those in Europe and America, are based on Roman law. The Romans also wrote down their laws in books so that everyone could understand them. This helped make the legal system fairer and more organized. Second, Latin, the language of Rome, became the foundation for many modern languages. Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian all come from Latin. Even English, which is not a Romance language, has many words that come from Latin. For example, words like university, library, and government have Latin roots. Because of this, Latin is still studied in schools today, especially by people who want to learn about science, medicine, or law. Third, the Romans were amazing builders. They built roads, bridges, aqueducts, and colosseums that were ahead of their time. The roads they built connected cities and made it easier for people to travel and trade. Some of these roads are still used today. The aqueducts carried water from faraway places into the cities, so people had clean water to drink and use. The Romans also built large public baths, theaters, and stadiums where people could gather and enjoy themselves. Their designs inspired buildings that we see today, like government buildings, churches, and sports arenas. Fourth, the spread of Christianity began in Rome. Under Emperor Constantine, Christianity became the main religion of the empire. Constantine himself converted to Christianity and made it legal for people to practice the religion. He even moved the capital of the empire to a new city called Constantinople, which became a center for Christian faith and learning. Over time, Christianity spread throughout Europe and the world. Today, it is one of the largest religions in the world, with billions of followers. Fifth, Roman art, literature, and philosophy shaped the way people think and create. Roman writers like Virgil, who wrote the famous poem The Aeneid, and historians like Tacitus, who wrote about Rome's history, are still studied today. Roman art, which often showed scenes of battles, gods, and everyday life, influenced artists for centuries. Roman philosophy, which focused on how to live a good and meaningful life, also inspired later thinkers. Rome's rise and fall teach us important lessons. It shows how hard work, smart leadership, and learning from others can make a society strong. The early Romans were farmers, traders, and warriors who worked together to build their city. They borrowed ideas from other cultures, like the Greeks and Etruscans, and improved them. They built roads, created laws, and trained their soldiers to be disciplined and loyal. All of these things helped Rome grow into a powerful empire. But Rome's story also shows what happens when greed, corruption, and division take over. As the empire grew larger, it became harder to control. Some leaders cared only about themselves and not about the people. They raised taxes, ignored the poor, and fought among themselves for power. The gap between the rich and the poor grew wider, and many people became unhappy. At the same time, the army became weaker, and enemies from outside the empire saw an opportunity to attack. These problems made Rome vulnerable, and eventually they led to its downfall. Even though Rome fell, its influence never truly disappeared. The ideas, traditions, and achievements of the Roman Empire live on in our world today. We see Rome's legacy in our laws, languages, buildings, and even our way of thinking. For example, when we talk about democracy, we are talking about an idea that began in ancient Greece, but was shaped and spread by Rome. When we drive on a paved road, we are using technology that the Romans invented. When we go to a stadium to watch a sports game, we are experiencing something that the Romans enjoyed thousands of years ago. The story of Rome is not just about the past. It is also about the present and the future. Rome's rise and fall remind us that even the greatest empires can fall if they do not stay united and fair, but they also show us that the best ideas and achievements can last forever. Rome may have ended, but its spirit lives on in the hearts and minds of people all over the world. And that is why the story of Rome is so important. It is not just history, it is part of who we are. It teaches us about the power of teamwork, the importance of fairness, and the value of learning from others. It also reminds us to be careful and work hard to protect what we have, so that we do not lose it. Rome's story will always be a source of inspiration and wisdom for everyone who hears it.